Have you ever stopped to think about how human resources has completely transformed? We're going to dive into the incredible journey of HR, watching it morph from a back-office support role into a critical, strategic leader that actually helps shape a company's future. This isn't just about a change in job titles, it's a whole new way of thinking.
Okay, let's get right to the heart of it. On one side, you have the old-school personnel department, totally reactive, swamped with paperwork, and focused on today's problems. On the other, you've got modern, strategic HR. This is proactive, it's looking years down the road, and it's a true partner at the leadership table. This is the transformation we're talking about today.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll kick things off with HR's evolution, then jump into how they actually build the company's strategic plan. After that, we'll cover how they handle real-world risks, prove their value with data, build company culture, and finally, we'll wrap up with why this new role is absolutely essential.
All right, first up, that evolution. I think the best way to picture this change is to think of HR moving from an administrator, someone who just keeps the existing machinery running, to an architect, the person who actually designs the whole structure for the company's talent.
You know, this is so much more than just taking on new tasks. It's about a fundamental shift in mindset. Strategic HR is always asking, okay, where is the business headed in the next 5 years? And what kind of people, skills, and culture do we need to build right now to make sure we get there? This proactive thinking literally moves HR from the passenger seat into the driver's seat.
So that brings us to the how. How does HR help build this roadmap for success? Well, it all starts with creating a solid strategic blueprint that connects a company's biggest dreams to the everyday work of its people.
At its core, strategic planning is really just about answering two simple questions. Where are we going and how are we going to get there? It's all about setting that direction. HR's job is to make sure that the most important part of that plan, the people, are totally aligned and ready for the journey.
And this process isn't a one-and-done kind of deal. It's a continuous cycle, and HR is plugged into every single step. First, they're scanning the world outside and inside the company. Then, they help shape the strategy itself. Next comes the most critical part, actually implementing it through people. And finally, they measure success and help the company adjust.
Now for that first step, scanning the environment, one of the go-to tools is the good old SWOT analysis. HR uses this to get a brutally honest look at reality. What are we amazing at internally? Like maybe our super engaged teams. Where are we weak? Maybe we don't have enough leaders in the pipeline. And what's going on out there in the world? New tech creating opportunities, or maybe new laws creating threats?
Let's be real. A great plan on paper means nothing if it can't handle the chaos of the real world. This is where HR's role in navigating risk, compliance, and the law becomes absolutely critical. It's all about protecting the company while still pushing the strategy forward.
Look, human capital risks are business risks. It's that simple. If your best salespeople keep quitting, you're not going to hit your revenue goals. If you don't have leaders ready to step up, you can't expand. A strategic HR team spots these dangers early and weaves the solutions, like succession planning or retention bonuses, right into the main business plan.
And then, of course, you have the legal minefield. Let's say a company decides to restructure. You can't just make that decision on a Monday and execute it on a Tuesday. In the US, the WARN Act, for example, demands a 60-day notice for big layoffs. This shows you how legal compliance isn't just a box to check. It directly shapes the timing and execution of your strategy.
It's the same with the Age Discrimination in Employment Act. This law directly impacts your talent strategy. You can't just decide to lay off older, more expensive employees to cut costs. The ADEA forces you to be smarter and fairer, basing decisions on actual performance and business needs, not just someone's age.
And this goes way beyond just employment law. Think bigger, like corporate governance. The Sarbanes-Oxley Act actually gives HR a massive role as a guardian of the company's ethics. By requiring whistleblower protections, SOX puts HR in charge of creating safe ways for employees to report serious problems without fearing for their jobs.
But at the end of the day, all these laws and rules are just the floor, not the ceiling. As this quote says so perfectly, it's not about checking boxes. The real strategic goal is to build a genuine culture of diversity, inclusivity, and belonging. That's what gives you a real edge in attracting the best talent.
So HR is doing all this important strategic work, but how do they prove it's actually making a difference? This is where measurement comes in. Strategic HR leaders have to speak the language of business, and that language is data.
One of the best tools for this is the balanced scorecard. It's so effective because it forces you to look beyond just the profit and loss statement. It gives you this holistic 360-degree view of performance, connecting what you do every day to the big picture results.
And here's how HR plugs right into it. For the financial piece, you're not just looking at HR's budget, you're measuring the return on investment of a training program. For internal processes, you're tracking how quickly you can fill critical jobs. And for learning and growth, you're measuring employee engagement, which is a huge predictor of future success.
Let's make this super concrete. Imagine HR spends $50,000 on a new leadership program. Because of that program, performance goes up and fewer people quit, which generates $200,000 in value for the business. That is a 300% return on investment. That's how HR proves it's not a cost center, it's a value driver.
Okay, but beyond the spreadsheets and ROI calculations, there's something else. Something that is arguably HR's most profound contribution. And that's architecting the company's culture and guiding it through major change.
You know that phrase, culture is how we do things around here? Well, strategic HR's job is to make sure that how we do things is perfectly aligned with the company's vision and its values. They are the guardians of the ethical climate, making sure that integrity is baked into everything.
But what happens when the strategy demands a huge shift in how you operate? That's where change management comes in. And a framework like Kotter's 8-step model is like a playbook. HR's role isn't just to send an email announcing the change. It's to help create urgency, build a team of champions, communicate the new vision over and over, and finally, lock those new habits into the culture so they actually stick. So, we've covered the evolution, the planning, the risk management, the data, and the culture building. When you put it all together, it leads to one very clear conclusion about the role of HR in any modern company.
And here it is, the strategic imperative. Modern HR is the essential link connecting your people to your profit and your culture to your competitive advantage. The job is to proactively align up every single piece of the employee experience with the business goals, making sure the organization doesn't just survive, but truly thrives.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We've seen HR make the incredible leap from administrator to architect. But as the world keeps changing with things like AI and new employee expectations, the real question is, what is the next strategic leap for HR? Thanks for joining us.